Hi! One of the all-time classic debates in the community is the Super Saiyan 4 versus Super Saiyan God / Blue matchup. To many, this might seem like a pointless debate since Super Saiyan Blue should naturally be stronger. But then there's the other camp who argue that SS4 should be stronger simply because GT takes place more than 10 years after the end of Z while Super happens before it. By that logic, Goku and Vegeta should have become much stronger in their SS4 forms, thanks to an extra decade of training compared to their DBS counterparts. Now, I'm not here to argue which of the two forms is stronger. Instead, I want to point out an interesting detail about their scaling in Sparking Zero. Both Super Saiyan Blue and Super Saiyan 4 are classified as 8 DP characters. DP stands for Destruction Points, which loosely represent their cannon power levels. I say loosely because some characters who should logically scale higher don't, purely for balance reasons. A great example is Ultra Instinct Goku, who also costs 8 DP, same as Blue and 4. But here's the thing. The developers clearly took this into account as they gave him higher damage output than any other 8 DP characters, including Blue and 4. And speaking of those two, the devs finally decided to put all those fan debates to rest by making Super Saiyan Blue deal less damage than Super Saiyan 4. No, I'm just kidding. They deal the exact same amount. Now, this isn't really a confirmation of anything. Just because the game scales them as equal doesn't mean they are. Still, I think it's a good way to go about it. One more thing worth mentioning. Regarding the Beast Gohan versus MUI Goku discussion, the game has them both dealing equal damage. I believe that's pretty fair, but I can see some people making the case that Gohan should be outputting a bit more damage compared to MUI. Rocky Land is probably the least used stage for online battles, at least on PC. 80% of the matches are played in the hyperbolic time chamber, while the remaining 20% are mostly shared between the Cell Games Arena, the Kai Planet, and the Island stage. But why?
Oh, I don't know, maybe because the game is lacking maps?
Yeah, well, maybe, but that's not entirely true. You see, the PC version of the game has a strange little quirk. Let's say you're playing Sparking Zero on a really good PC that has 0 stutters, and your opponent is playing on a low to mid-range PC that barely runs Sparking Zero at a stable frame rate. Whenever a player with a weaker PC drops frames, the game will force your game to slow down to match the frame rate of your opponent. And depending on the severity of the frame drop on your opponent's end, you could find yourself playing on 50 or even as low as 30 to 40 FPS. A couple of sweaty ranked players took advantage of this by intentionally overloading their weaker PCs, causing lag for both players, and then exploiting it by spamming supers that demand precise timing to dodge. Since the game now runs at a much slower pace, all that time you spent practicing dodges and vanishes basically goes out the window. The timing feels completely different at 60 FPS, the default frame rate the game is capped at, compared to the 40 or 50 FPS, the frame rate that's been purposefully forced by cheesy players. And that's where the absurd usage rate of the time chamber stage comes in. This stage is extremely light on performance, which is why it's so popular on PC. Anyone can run it at a stable frame rate since it has no stage destruction or extra effects impacting performance. In fact, that's also why it was the only map available for split screen at launch, because it's just so easy to run. It's literally just an empty, endless void. Rocky Land is the complete opposite. It's the most demanding stage in the game, putting a heavy strain on the GPU. And that's a shame because apart from being fun to play on, the stage introduces a unique feature that the series has long since left behind. In the very first Sparking game, Tenkaichi 1, players would spawn at random locations on the map, ensuring that no two matches ever began the same way. While you may occasionally spawn at the same point 2 times in a row, the other player will generally spawn somewhere completely random.
Where the hell am I?
Crystal of Atlant is a brand new cross-platform Magic-Punk MMORPG featuring over 17 classes, all unlocked from the very start by the way, and with each class offering 20 plus unique skill combinations, Crystal of Atlant lets you jump into action immediately. And right now is the perfect time to do just that because they're doing a collab with Digimon. The digital world's strongest, mechanical Digimon, Machindramon, is about to invade Atlant. Charge into battle solo or join 4-player co-op raids and see who can triumph in the fight. Both Agumon and Gatomon join the collab as pets, and once fully evolved, they unlock an exclusive idol animation where they digivolve into Anju Woman and War Greymon. Also, Garurumon and Metal Garurumon arrive as mounts in the collab, granting a jump distance boost along with the brief speed increase after every jump. Crystal of Atlan is available on mobile, PS5, and PC, and if you join the game now, you'll get a bunch of collab rewards for free, including Garomon, a collab avatar frame, collab title, Haromon as a bauble, and much more. Download Crystal of Atlan today by clicking my link in the description or the pinned comment. In the very next installment and in all subsequent games, this random spawn feature was entirely removed. However, on Sparking Zero's Rocky Land stage, there's something. It doesn't have random spawn points, but it does feature two distinct locations. Most matches place both players at the very center of the stage, while in rare cases, they spawn in a nearby rock formation. Why does it do that, and why only on this map? Not honestly sure. It could be character specific, but it's odd that it only occurs on this stage. Perhaps the developers were experimenting with the random spawn points for the first game, but ultimately decided against it. Do let me know what you think. Not sure if you've noticed, but whenever you land a super or pull off a combo that deals 10,000 or more damage, your character says a unique line.
Final blow! This is more like it. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Most of the time, it'll just be a line acknowledging your opponent's strength, like we just heard from Goku. Some characters, though, will say it's time to get serious.
This is what I can really do.
And some of them just straight up get pissed.
Worthless scum!
The reactions of the entire roster can basically be boiled down to those three types, except for Android 13 apparently.
Where's my trucker hat?
Alright, he doesn't actually say that, but you can't deny it would have fit perfectly, especially since his hat actually gets blown up. No, the actual strange line comes from Super Android 13.
I have the high ground.
I have no idea what he means by that.
Yeah, me neither. But those aren't the only kind of lines your characters will say. If you're hit by a super or ultimate that leaves you clinging to your last bar of health, the tone completely shifts, and many of the lines turn downright depressing.
I'm running on fumes, but I can't give up. I thought I had grown stronger.
Oh no, maybe this'll be the end of me.
King Cold's line is pretty funny, as he once again tries to bargain his way out, just like he did in the anime.
I may have a spot for you among my forces.
Now, I don't want to drag this out any longer, because there are just so many unique near-death lines and over 182 characters in the game at this point. And if documenting all 182 wasn't enough, about 70% of the cast have not one, but two unique lines when near death.
Is this the end? I'm running on fumes.
So yeah, to keep this video from running an extra 30 minutes just on character quotes, we'll leave it there. But before we move on, there's one particularly clever detail regarding Frieza's low HP lines. You'll notice that with each transformation, his voice and tone grow more desperate, as if he's losing confidence in his chances of winning as his transformation pool narrows, until he reaches his final form and finally comes to terms with the situation he's in.
For a putrid worm, you certainly don't give up easily. You'll regret this, you maggot!
You'll pay, you maggot!
You're a capable foe. Oh no, this is a nightmare!
I vividly remember playing as Goku and deflecting my opponent's ki blast by kicking it away. This was way back on the good old PS2, so unfortunately, I don't have any footage to show. I even tried to recreate it for this video, but after half an hour of attempts, I still couldn't get it. What I'm trying to say is, I thought it was the coolest thing to ever happen to me in that game, even if it was just the result of a glitch or some insanely perfect timing. Now, when it comes to Sparking Zero, I'm not sure how many of you know this, but you can actually kick ki blasts away, though the number of characters who can do it can be counted on one hand. This is the standard stock deflect animation, used by literally 97.5% of the characters in the entire game. It's a bit basic, but it gets the job done. And then we have Vegito and Gogeta, and the other Gogeta. All three of them deflect blasts by launching a rapid flurry of kicks and punches that sends the oncoming ki blasts flying all over the place. Now, I can understand why they did this. After all, these characters are essentially the pinnacle of power in the game, and the devs probably wanted them to feel extra special. What I don't get is why they also gave it to Goku Super. I could understand if it were only in blue, but no, he has it in base, Super Saiyan, as well as the God form, and only DPS Goku has it. No other iteration does. Not even the great Goku mid. No idea behind the reasoning, but I don't mind that he has it. We also have merged Zamasu as an honorable mention. His deflect animation is very similar to the standard one, but it's been subtly adjusted to reflect Zamasu's personality, graceful and elegant. Whenever I talk about the super armor mechanic, it's usually with characters in their normal state. But did you know that this mechanic becomes far more nuanced and complex when examined in the character's sparking or max power state? There are 4 distinct levels of super armor in the max power state. Coincidentally, there are also 4 levels of the Super Saiyan 1 form. So I'm going to use that analogy to break down the different grades of super armor. Grade 1, or the imperfect version of super armor, is reserved for characters who don't have it in their normal state. Instead, they only gain it once they enter sparking, and they only get Ki Blast immunity, meaning they won't be staggered by any kind of Ki Blast. Grade 2, or semi-perfect, is reserved for characters who also don't have super armor in their normal state and only gain it in sparking. But unlike Grade 1, these characters have proper super armor in sparking, meaning they won't be staggered by normal attacks. This includes bulky characters like Nappa, Recoome, Android 13, Toppo, Orange Piccolo, Jiren, Yajirobe, and other strong durable fighters like Blue Gogeta, Beast Gohan, Vegito, the Gammas, Bardock, and oddly enough, semi-perfect Cell. I called Grade 2 semi-perfect because these characters' super armor can be broken by a simple rush attack, like the flying kicks for example. Hits from a character with a DP cost of 5 or less won't break it, but anything higher will instantly break through. Grade 3, or giant armor, is a pretty unique form of super armor reserved for the giants. It's stronger than Grade 2, as rush attacks from 6 DP cost characters won't break it. Instead, you need someone with 8 DP or more to crack it. Unlike Grade 2, which blocks all incoming Ki Blasts, Grade 3 doesn't. You'll still take damage from Ki Blasts, but you won't get staggered, which honestly isn't that bad of a trade-off in my opinion. And finally, Grade 4, aka Perfect Armor. This one is only reserved to 4 characters: Cell Max, Giant Piccolo, and of course, the 2 Brolys. Grade 4 works just like Grade 3, but with one big upgrade. You take no damage from Ki Blasts and they get reflected straight back at your opponent. Super Saiyan 2 is such an awesome form, but when it comes to adult Gohan and Vegeta, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Generally, Super Saiyan 2 should have spikier hair than Super Saiyan, but both the animators and the games tend to overlook that. Strangely though, Sparking Zero actually gets it right. For the most part, SSJ1 and SSJ2 have almost identical hairstyles. However, the SSJ2 version makes Gohan's signature bang longer and spikier, and it removes that short strand of hair that the SSJ1 form had. When it comes to Vegeta, they sadly didn't change anything. Both forms look identical, minus the electricity. It always bothered me a little, given the attention to detail they showed by giving Vegeta distinct face models for Z and Super versions. It's not exactly the end of the world, but I've always seen it as a bit of a missed opportunity. For all the crap the devs and Bandai got for the first Daima DLC, they at least did one thing right. Even though many people saw Daima Vegeta Super Saiyan 2 form as a waste of a DLC slot, I've got to give him credit for actually making an effort to differentiate the two. The Super Saiyan 1 hairstyle is less detailed, looser, and fluffier, while SS2 is sharper and more defined. I can definitely appreciate that. Energy absorption android models like 19 and 20 can drain their opponent's ki and add it to their own energy reserve. Of course, if you try to drain energy from an artificial being, it won't work. After all, they don't have natural energy. This isn't anything new. It's been a staple of the Tenkaichi games since the PS2 era. But there's one thing we didn't have in the previous games. Everything works basically the same in Sparking Zero as it did in the old games. However, if we attempt to drain the energy of artificial beings in SZ, there's a subtle new addition.
Impossible!
Both Jiro and 19 get confused whenever they attempt to drain energy from other mechanical characters. Their confusion is even more pronounced when performing their energy absorption ultimates on other fellow artificial beings.
You are defying all logic! You are no longer needed!
I've made a tremendous error.
I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but the Shallot update gave Jiro in 19 a pretty awesome buff. The two were, and still are, able to absorb beam-type super attacks. Previously, the amount of energy they could absorb would never exceed 5 key bars. Finally, after countless nerfs over the past 10 months, 19 and 20 can rejoice. With the Shallot update, the two absorption androids can now convert any excess energy from super attacks and fully enter the sparking state. It's not exactly a buff that changes their viability, but it's really a cool buff that ties in nicely with the lore. Zamasu, both in the games and in the show, is played by an actor named John Masters. This will become important in just a few seconds. And here's what corrupt Zamasu says during his ultimate.
Human power has failed, as it will now.
Alright, why am I drawing attention to these lines? Well, listen to this line from Piccolo in the Dragon Ball Evolution adaptation.
Human power has failed before.
Yeah, they do say the same thing. And there's a really clever reason for it. The voice actor of Zamasu, James Masters, also played Piccolo in Dragon Ball Evolution. Quite a cheeky and clever reference from the Sparking Zero localization team. Thank you all for watching. I was hoping DLC 3 would already be out and do a video on that, but yeah. Anyway, do let me know what you want to see next. Take care!